Hey, welcome back. This is going to be the third installation, the third installment of my discussions about the Battle of Trafalgar and the uh, the factors that I'm weighing in my mind when I'm thinking about the battle and doing the painting. I'm trying to do a historical representation of the Battle of Trafalgar and be as accurate as possible. So there's two goals. I'm trying to make a good painting that's artistically valid, whatever that means. I'm also trying to be as accurate as possible in terms of the historical facts, like there's known quantities about the Battle of Trafalgar. So if I'm going to do a series of these paintings about the battle, I'm going to be wrestling with those two things. I'm trying to make this realistic in terms of a painting, to make it look real, with air quotes or not. And I'm also trying to be as real with the details as possible that are represented by the paint, so that this painting would presumably and hopefully please historians and people who just liked art. So for the history part, I've been relying on all the books that are available. There's so many, and I've read about it a lot. It was actually the Battle of Trafalgar that got me interested in sailing ships in the first place. There's a book called The Price of Admiralty by John Keegan. It's in the other room on my bookshelf. Where is it? Is it up here? Where's Moby Dick anyway? I don't know. Trust me, it's there. It's worth reading. It's a terrific short rundown of what Trafalgar was, who was there, why they were there, and how it worked out. John Keegan's a terrific historian and a great writer. What is today? Is today the 16th of January, 2021. Like I say, this is my third of these, and I am enthusiastic about it. My mom saw the first one. She was very excited. She's the one who encouraged me to do these. She really believes that there's going to be an audience for this kind of thing and that people are going to want to hear what I have to say. And so I'm trying to meet your expectations. If you're trying to get some videos about painting, hopefully I'm going to satisfy you there. And if you're going to be interested in the historical aspect of the battle, hopefully I'm going to satisfy you there too and tell you some stuff you might not have heard. I am not the world's greatest Trafalgar historian, but I have been thinking about it a lot. Look at my apartment. I've got sailing ship stuff all over the place. Oh, I forgot to show you this drawing. I did a big, huge drawing of the Euryalus. That's like 40 inches wide. Trying to, nail down the details. From looking at those schematic drawings, I tried to make this three-dimensional drawing. And then on this wall, here's a 74-gun ship diagram taped over my giant drawing of the Battle of Trafalgar, which I tried to map out the locations of all the ships. So here's the weather column. Over here is the French and the Spanish, and it's underneath there. And I kept updating that because the more I looked at those course tracks and reading the logs of the ships, in this book, Logs of the Great Sea Fights by T. Sturgis Jackson, he's got verbatim transcriptions of the actual ship's logs at the Battle of Trafalgar. And they're for most of the ships that were there. But they're all very brief, and they don't tell me the details that I'd like to know. They do talk about squalls, but they don't describe what the sky looked like. But they'll just say squalls and rain, The logs cover the day before the battle and the days after, because half of the story of the Battle of Trafalgar is the storm that happened after. Everybody remembers October 21st, 1805, but there was a 2-week period after that where the victorious and the beaten ships both faced the weather, a terrible storm that went on for a long time. And it reversed a lot of the British victories in that they had taken captive a lot of these Spanish and French ships, but then they had to let them go or they lost them during the storm. So it sort of robbed them a little bit. I mean, they denied them to the enemy, but they didn't take them into their own navy as they would have if the storm hadn't have further wrecked them. If you think about it, at the end of the battle on the 21st, the ships were all shattered and beat up. Even the ones that didn't see that much action would have required some repair, and the ones that were just barely afloat would have required extended stays in dockyards with professional repair, armies of men. But all they had were the people who had just gone through the battle. So a lot of them were physically damaged, and I'm sure most of them were deaf from the constant cannonading, the cannons going off all over the place. So those are the people that had to coordinate the repairs at sea in a hurricane. And I think that's worth of painting too, actually, is some of these ships with their masts all destroyed and in distress. That's why I like this Bogain illustration. This is a 74-gun ship that's being repaired. It's lost its topmasts, and they've jury-rigged some repairs, but you can see the surface of the hull is covered with shot holes. See the little specks all over the hull? Those are hits from the cannon. And there's people trying to repair the ship. They're up there. I love this guy's work. But too often, when they talk about the battle, they just talk about the glory of the actual action itself. Anyway, I think I'm satisfying the historians, but what about the people who are here for the aesthetics of the art? When I whipped out the camera today, I thought I was going to talk about color temperature. And I wanted to talk about the lighting conditions that I have set in motion for this painting. The idea is it's an approaching storm. There is some light coming down, though, right? So there's a hole in the clouds, and it's falling on the water in the background. And that's what that's supposed to be back there, is the rays of water, or I'm sorry, rays of sun lighting up this ship in the distance and illuminating her sails like she's in a spotlight, right? And then the pickle, just closer to the viewer, we covered that, is not. So I wanted to have the difference. They both have canvas sails. Ostensibly, they're canvas color, but this one's more in shadow and this one's in direct sun. Sunlight is warm, meaning it warms your skin, but it's also like a yellowish color, like a buttery color, which is a warmer color, a warmer tone. And then there are cooler tones too. If you have walked into a classroom in the old days where it was all lit by fluorescent lights and it was the walls were painted white, it was cold and chilly in there because that fluorescent light is really cold. It doesn't have... It's not that a thermometer would be changed by it, but the feeling and the perception that your eye is receiving is of a colder, bluer wavelength of light. So if you're doing a painting, really all you're doing, the argument is that all you're painting is the light. The objects are there, but what you're painting is the light that bounces off the object. If the light isn't hitting an object, you don't see it. So you're seeing the light also, not just the object itself. So, all right, I could go down that rabbit hole. I don't want to. I'm trying to contrast and compare the differences of the sails. So if you look at the main topsail on the Euryalus, there's some slight blue tone in here, right? There's a highlight up here, which is a warmer tone. And then there's a warmer khaki color. It's trying to turn into a grayish brown, right? But there's also this slight blue, and that is a colder color. It feels chilly. Like if these were given temperatures, you would make this one a few degrees cooler than this one, or many degrees cooler. And it gives that sail some more realism, but it's also telling you something about the real world. The light, even if there wasn't direct sunlight coming out here, it wouldn't be pitch darkness. Light would be filtering through even these dark clouds, and presumably it's reflecting off at the sea and bouncing back up. And that's what this is. This is a reflection of the cooler tones that are coming up and hitting the sail. It would be an oversimplification to have the sail just be one color. Just because sailcloth is one color doesn't mean that when you spread out 100 square feet of it, that it would all be the same color, because the surface that it's presenting is curved. And so the light hitting it from the top is going to be, you have to represent it as a painter, different, brighter, and a different temperature than the bottom, right? So you can go online and hear all sorts of just how to draw a cylinder and how to do the shading on a sphere, and that's what they're getting at, is that it's the sphere is all one color, but when you represent it on the canvas or on a page, you have to do the shading, right? And then you have to blend it too. So like I've got my brush strokes, they're landing next to each other. I'm trying to get the tones so that there's not a jarring change from one to the other. They're very close. Photographed in black and white, I'm assuming that these two regions would be more difficult to discern the difference of, and the line that where they demarcate, where one side is the warm side and one side is the cool side. In black and white, it would all be one color temperature, and presumably this would all blend together. That's not what you're aiming at. You're not trying to fool a black and white camera. But if you're painting, there's no color anywhere on the canvas where you shouldn't be considering the color temperature too. Like it's not just the choice of what color to paint. It's not just the choice of I paint up to this point and stop because that's where the edge of the shape is. That's like a drawing concern. It's a painting concern too. But another one of the painting concerns, and I feel it's often overlooked, is the color temperature. You have to have this sense of like, well, this one's warmer and this one's colder. And that would lead into a conversation about the overall tone of the painting. Like some paintings are definitely very hot feeling or very warm, and some paintings are very cool feeling. Not literally, but by the color temperature term. Yeah, so anyway, I was trying to paint, and I'm still struggling with this. Back to the pickle. We were talking about the pickle on the last installment here. How much of this color that I've got going here is cool? How much of it should be warm? And what does it really look like in 1805? So I'm actually going to mix some paint here. It's hard to see because I already have a lot of paint on here, but here's some white, right? And I'm going to try to get to the point where I'm making the canvas color that's right for this painting. I'm going to get some ultramarine blue, which is the basic blue. I'm going to put that down right next to it, right? I'm going to put a tiny bit of red in there, and that's for color temperature. That little bit of red. So there's the red, there's the blue, there's the white. It's going to need some yellow too, but right now let's see what the white does when I mix it into the blue. All right, I've got this blue that's looks pretty chilly, right? The color temperature, almost like ice. So I take some of this red and I throw it in there, and it knocks down that color temperature. It makes it warmer, because red is very hot. I don't think I even needed to tell you that, right? And I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and stick it in there too. And I'm going to arrive slowly at the color that I want, right? I think this is the color of the darkest part of the canvas right now. So I'm going to come back up here. Here's where I want to apply it. You saw me mix it. Now I'm going to put it on. And I want to put it on the bottom of the sail to show that it's curved, right? So here it goes. I'm putting it on. It's matching the other color pretty close, right? It might be too light. So I can do that same process, but I already have this burnt umber color, which is very similar. So I'm going to throw some burnt umber and some more blue in there. Now I've got a darker color. Apologies that I keep drifting the camera off to the wrong side. So back to where we were. Here's the pickle sail. I'm going to go to the same area. Try to hit it darker. Yeah, so that's darker. I'm looking as I'm applying this at the ship in the background. You know, if I put this on this canvas, it would be all wrong, right? This is, you can see it's so dark. It would be hurting this one. But here, it's helping me define the shape because I'm getting into the right ballpark. I wish there was feedback and you can ask me a question, because I'm sure there's probably some people who are like, wait a minute, go back and say that part again because I didn't get it. Now I'm trying to just blend it together so that I have a smoother surface. The canvas shouldn't have jarring transitions. It should blend easily back and forth. And this is where oil paint is so much nicer because it just takes so much longer to dry. If I leave this for too long, both these surfaces and these colors that I've just applied will be hardened, and they will not blend together. See, if I scribble right here, I'm blending the two colors together. And now I think I've given the sails a little more definition, that they're bellowed out towards us, that the wind is supposed to be blowing from the distance and blowing in this direction. So it's hitting the sides of all these sails that we can't see and making them bulge out towards us. All right, I don't know if I covered what I really wanted to cover, but I talked for 15 minutes, so I'm going to call it a day and upload this to YouTube. And help me out. What should I make the title? The title is going to have to be like something about sales and color temperature, but I also threw in some other stuff too because I just can't help myself. Anyway, I think what this should have been about was a discussion of when is the painting done. Because this painting's done, or is it? I could work on it for another day, but would I improve it or would I make it worse? I had a teacher who gave me the excellent advice of saying, defer the decision. Don't decide that it's done at the end of the day while you're still, like you worked on it that day. She recommended that I take the painting home, turn it against the wall and don't look at it for a couple of days, and then turn it around and look at it with a fresh eye. Because if you think about it, like let's say you're trying to write a paragraph and you spent the whole afternoon writing the paragraph over and over, and you got a stack of like 20 sheets of paper covered with 8 versions of the paragraph on each one. After a while, you've already written the best paragraph, but in your mind it's so jumbled it's hard for you to even see the paragraph fresh, So stop and reassess later with a clear mind, which I think is excellent advice. And then the other trick that I was told, I think it was by the same teacher. If it wasn't, I'll attribute it to her anyway. Anyway, hold the painting up to a mirror. Like go into the bathroom and hold the painting in front of your chest and then look at the mirror in the bathroom window or whichever window, mirror. Look in the mirror. Look at the reflection in the mirror. You're looking at the painting, but now every brushstroke is 180 degrees in the other direction. And you are seeing it in a fresh light. And that's excellent advice because there's things that would jump out at you from a painting that you are looking at from the reverse angle. That it's forcing your brain to see it in a different way than you have been seeing it all this while. That wouldn't work with paragraphs. You couldn't read the paragraph backwards and get any sense of it, but it will work with visual stuff. Okay, now it's 17 minutes long, and this is too long, so I'm going to hit the end, and I'm going to thank you guys for watching, and I'll have more updates later. Thanks. Bye-bye. Oh, leave a note so I know if you're reading this or not, if you care. Ask a question. I'll try to address it. Thanks. Bye-bye.